Welcome to Conversations with Laurel, everyone. I am your host, Laurel McHargue, and today I have a very exciting guest who's going to tell you some very exciting news about his very exciting book. Don Schechter, welcome to Conversations with Laurel.
Hi, Laurel. Thanks so much for having me.
You're so very welcome. We're going to talk today
Yeah.
about everything
Oh,
Ascendants, right?
matching copies.
Do you
Here we
have one
go.
too? Do you have one too? But
I do have a
I
few.
have
I have a few around.
yeah, I have an advanced reader copy. So I
Oh,
mean,
I got to send you the final because it's got more quotes on the cover and the
I
inside.
bet there are so many amazing quotes on this. And again, this is what a book. Holy moly. So before
Wow,
we even get into your book,
please.
Dawn, you have quite a bio. I would
It's a
like for
strange bio,
you
right?
a strange bio. Yes, a very interesting, a great bio. What would you like our audience to know about you?
What to know about me?
Yeah,
That's tough. People go by titles and what they do, and what
yeah.
I do is a lot of different things that sometimes don't make a lot of sense together without a whole lot of story.
Hmm.
I think the short version of it is I am the founder and CEO of a company called Charles River Media in Boston. I've been running the company for 21 years. So I got out of grad school, and there's a whole backstory with online video and all this stuff, but it rolled into a company. We do video production, streaming, live events, educational research, studio services. So all sorts of video, film,
Yeah.
television research company. That's job number one. That's my
Okay,
day job.
21 years, but you're only what, 26, 27?
Exactly, exactly. If don't mind the no hair. I am also a part-time professor in the Film and Media Studies program at Tufts University. So I teach occasionally classes on marketing, on film production. I've taught documentary, all sorts of stuff. That's sort of my side hustle. I call it my volunteer work because there was none of that when I was in school. So I just been doing that for that's also 20 years as well. I think it was my 20th anniversary. No one noticed. So I do
Congratulations.
that. Thank you. I'm also, obviously the author of Ascendants, but I worked on a film project that takes place in the world of Ascendants for a number of years, probably 10 years, called the Ascendants Anthology. So I wrote and directed four short films that were sort of packaged together as an anthology series. So that took up quite a bit of my time outside of work. And I co-host a podcast called No Win Scenario, where a friend of mine, we both like and hate each other, discuss our love of science fiction, but we bring on guests who are creators and production designers and authors and art directors and actors and actresses in sci-fi and sci-fi adjacent creation content and talk to them. So that's roughly what I do.
I'm available next week. We'll
Oh,
talk.
great.
We'll talk after this is
Excellent.
over.
You got to fly over to our studio though. We're all in person in our studio now.
All right. So you
Yeah.
live in Newton, Massachusetts right now?
Newton, Massachusetts, which is right outside of Boston. So we just say Boston. Yeah.
I grew up in Braintree.
Did you really?
I did.
Oh, down the street. Okay.
Born and raised in Braintree till I
Oh,
ran away from home and joined the army. Yeah.
oh, no kidding. Well, Colorado, Braintree and where you are in Colorado, it's almost the same thing.
Oh,
No
yeah.
real difference, right?
No difference.
Accents
Oh,
slightly different. And
yes.
everyone talks slower from what I remember of Colorado.
I think so. What's funny is we had someone come and service one of our appliances yesterday, and he is from Haiti, and he immediately picked up that I was not from Colorado.
Oh, an
He knows
accent or
accents.
just yeah.
My accent. I guess I still have a little bit of a Boston accent every once in a while. It might come out. I don't know. I don't think I have one, but
Well, here if you pocket car somewhere, but
you
yeah.
gotta get a
I
pack
think
my
I
car.
think
Yeah.
it's the speed because I'm originally from New York City and I
Okay.
talk fast for Boston. So when I go somewhere, in the Midwest or anywhere or the South and they're like slow down, I'm like,
So
no, no, let's go.
we got things to do. We got things to
We got
do.
things to do.
All right. Let's get to your book,
Yeah. Ascendants,
Ascendants.
yeah.
Ascendants, a techno thriller. I mean,
Question mark?
it's described as a lot of different things, but
Yes.
let's say it's a techno thriller that feels, I would say, eerily relevant to today's society.
Yeah.
Talk to our audience about the A's and the B's, the ascendants
Oh,
and
the
the
ascendants and
biomasses.
biomasses. So, at the heart of the world, so not the story of the book, but at the heart of the world is that there is a scientific organization called the Jacobs Institute
Mhm.
that has sort of stumbled upon proof of an afterlife.
Yeah.
And it's such profound proof, something you can go and experience and see and feel that there's no question. for people. So it completely upends society. Religions fall, society gets fractured, people change in the history of this world. Now, the A's and the B's, or the ascendants and the biomasses, what happens is that it's announced one day after years of this sort of new world, and it's a modern dystopia. So it's
Yeah.
relatively, the world is very similar to ours with
Yeah, very
some
similar.
major changes. Yeah. It's announced that only a percentage of the population can ascend, can go on. And so you think about what that new class division feels like and how people react to this like existential dread that happens and who wants to just go on to the next life right away. So that's where the A's and B's come from. It's that's the backdrop of this. It's a lot about corporate power and technology and people who are trying to do what's right. The lead scientist who we follow throughout this book, um, he's doing something to save his daughter throughout his whole life, to save his daughter who's got a really horrible disease. And all of his success, and you see the rise of the Institute and what they've done, is all because of his, failure after failure to cure his daughter. But
Yeah.
all these other scientific achievements come. So
Mhm.
the heart of the book is about the choices we make to save the people that we care about, and as well about the real stories about a family, a mom and her two daughters,
Mhm.
and who have a really sort of fractured relationship, both of because of what happens in their lives and external pressures, and about what happens when they become a target of the Institute and
Yeah, yeah,
how they help sort of expose what's going on there. So yes, it's a techno thriller. It's been hard for me to sort of talk about what it is.
yeah.
Techno thriller, but it's not so like just about the technology.
Right.
It's really about people. The
Yeah.
technology is just the vehicle. It's as if it was a Star Trek episode and they were in space and they were traveling. Okay, that's not the story. That just you know the vehicle to get somewhere. So the technology here is a vehicle to tell the story of these people, and all their stories get intertwined. There's a number of
Yes.
characters. Someone online randomly called it the sci-fi Game of Thrones. I don't see it whatsoever. I don't get the connection, but I will take
You'll
it.
take it.
But I'll take it. I'll take it. But it's about a handful of stories that become intertwined in the collection of in the book.
Yeah, and it
Yeah.
and it's a lot about the haves and the have-nots, right?
Yes.
In most cases, and there are also some religions who believe that there are only a certain number of people who will be saved.
Right. I mean, a lot of religion is you believe what we believe and then you will be saved. I mean, it might be a slightly naive, thought, but I feel like when I first had this idea of this world, which was decades ago, I mean, I was in my 20s, so a long time ago, it was part of a reaction, I think, to, sort of a simplistic, but I think an accurate reaction that, in a post 9/11, like really post 9/11 world, like just then, there are people who have such strong beliefs. And I'm not talking about one religion, a lot of religions, most religions, right? That you're either one of us or no one, right? And the acts of violence and bigotry and cruelty that can happen from that, is something worth talking about. And people are just so used to like, this is what I grew up with, this is what I am, and so I'm better than you, or you're weird or different, or I have a bad, living conditions, but I'm gonna, not cling because I know that's a bad term, but like I'm going to believe this, and then therefore I'm going to treat you differently. I thought at the time when the story sort of was first an idea, how do we talk about that through what I love, which is sci-fi? And
Yeah.
so the way to talk about that, right, is to say, no, we're going to not talk about religion by talking about religion. We're going to talk about religion and extreme ideologies because it's not always religion. It could be an extreme belief in anything by flipping it on its head and making it a scientific fact for that world. And that's how we
Yes.
talk about it.
That's a great idea. Would you share what you actually believe about the afterlife?
Oh, I'm a good old classic. Do you there's nothing. I mean, there might be aliens in other dimensions now and orbs that are talking about in the world. So there could be a lot of things we don't know, but I am in there's no scientific proof of anything. And I wouldn't listen to my great grandmother tell me what to eat or not to eat. So it's hard for me to go back generations and necessarily believe those stories. I think for some people it's very helpful,
Mhm.
and that's great. Organized religion. It's not something that I haven't really needed. But I think when it becomes less about your own personal needs and community and all that stuff, and it becomes about enforcing this, story that you've happened to have from your family, let's say, or you're chosen to other people, then that's a problem. So if it's for your own personal benefit, your family, your community, great. I
I used
find
to,
I find that need from other things, but yeah,
yeah, yeah. I used to be Catholic. I got over that many years ago. Um, I'd like to read something
yeah,
and have you talk about this. One of your characters um, writes his name's Sebastian. He's 15. He's 15. And he's remembers a funeral that he went to,
yeah,
and he asked his mother why the people there kept saying the word present day or present,
yeah.
and she explained that it meant the dead were living on in their hearts, that they were present with us at all time, and that they'd never be forgotten. So what do I believe? This is Sebastian speaking. I believe good people, decent people, get to live on in other people's hearts. And not even you could take that away. There are no A's and B's. It's what we do with our life, this life, that matters. It's who we are and how we're remembered. So I kind of feel like that's what you were getting at when I asked you about your own beliefs.
Yeah, possibly. It's interesting that you picked up on that quote because that is one of the few verbatim lines from the films that made it into
Ah,
the book, which is interesting.
all right.
Um, yeah, I mean, that story of going to a funeral and hearing that word was told to me many, many years ago. And so when I was working on the second Ascendants Anthology film called Raven, I wanted to have this sort of emotional moment where this character Rowan, the resistance in this world had thought they had captured this Sebastian and was interrogating him, and wanted this sort of emotional moment of like, no, this is not the world. This is the world I believe, and look how beautiful that is. Like they're present in our hearts. And Sebastian's next line in response is terrifying because he doesn't
Terrifying.
want to live in a world where it's just a memory. He's seen, he knows, he sees. So what happens in the world of Ascendance, you can go to the what are called viewing rooms, and there's technology that we explain in the book that basically lets you tap into a volunteer who's going to die and go to this afterlife.
Yeah.
And so you don't need proof of a scientist. You can literally go there and experience that feeling of moving on. And so at your core. So wouldn't you rather know at your core there's something else for you than just you're just a memory and no one will remember you and you've got nothing. So I kind of wanted to flip it on its head where we had this beautiful moment of like you're in other people's hearts and this other character, this antagonist is like, that's terrifying what you just said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's funny that
It's
it's in the book because there's not a lot of direct quotes from the films because
well,
the
you have, I
films took
mean,
place, yeah, they took place like in the history of the main story, but the main story is the book.
all
Yeah,
right. Well, I mean, I've marked a lot of different things that we could talk about and that could be in the book. So
yeah,
what I find really interesting is you start each chapter with a little bit of a scene setting. Like the
yeah,
very this chapter starts with the phone rang on the bedside table. Right.
yeah,
So it's kind of like a set cue kind of thing.
yeah.
Tell me why you did that. I liked it. It
Yeah,
really
thank you.
it
Yeah, I
worked.
mean there were sort of epigraphs that happen where there's like a quote that either is from our actual history here or from a made up future, or from characters there. And then there's these like tags in the beginning of the chapters. I think the original
Tags.
idea, I thought these sort of opening tags were like, I grew up with comic books.
Yeah.
And so part of it was a little bit of like setting the scene with the comic book
Yeah.
and to move the story along. Like
Yeah.
the book moves fast. I mean, I think right
It
now,
does.
you know, I've gotten really good reviews and some negative, and the negative ones are like, it's too quick, it's too fast. And, I think it's 80,000 words or 85,000 words. I think my most, the draft before the published version got, to the editor was 130,000 words. So
Oh
there's a
man, that's
lot more story that was originally there.
yeah.
So sometimes it was a useful way to move the story along because I had to cut out, the publisher wanted me to cut out, 40,000 words. So it was a way for me to move things
Ouch.
along. But I always sort of had that idea and always kind of had that in all the drafts, the 80 drafts that I ever had of this book. Um, because I just feel like it moves the story, it sets the scene. There is a little bit of jumping around in time. This novel is broken up into three books. The book of this, the book of that, the book of that, both to mimic sort of biblical references, and because that middle book kind of jumps back in time, and we sort of see the development of the technology behind Ascension. So it helps to sort of plant the reader where we are, especially with so many intertwined stories and scenes and things like that. But I always just liked it. It felt like a comic book. It felt like anime. It felt like, just I'm so visual with what I do. I'm in movies and TV and video production. That's really what I love and what I do.
Mhm.
The novel I did because nobody else was writing this book for me. That's what it was. I had this idea. I tried, just nobody would do it for me. I had to do it myself. So, that's it. Had to become an author to do it. But
Well,
I
it
think
works.
visually, yeah.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. It kind of sets you
Thank you.
up. It's like, oh, here I am. The phone just rang. Oh, what's going to happen next? And it was always a what's going to happen next.
Right.
What am I getting into right now? And it's always something very exciting.
Right.
So,
I also like I like it moving. I don't like reading. I
yeah.
wrote the book. The story is for someone like me who loves, hopefully intellectual sci-fi that moves fast, that's fun, that you don't know what's going to happen, that there's twists and it's not what you think.
Right,
I don't
right.
love luxuriating in a book in excruciating detail while someone is slowly picking up their water. I want the story to move. I want things to happen. I want it to be unrelenting in a way. So it feels like boom.
This
Yeah.
video will not be a Cannes Film Festival Award winner. So, okay, in this, and again, sci-fi, some stuff that we maybe don't have yet, but I'm wondering if we already have it. Your little PACT bots, your little
Yeah.
bots that
Yeah.
can invade the body without even some people knowing it and recover information from the body. Um, Good thing, bad thing? Do we have it now? There are
It's
medical
come, yeah.
uses. It's coming, or it's here, or talk a little bit about bots
Yeah,
that can get
so the
into
bots,
us.
yeah, these we call them the packed bots. I think an early version I said packed bugs many years ago, and if I say it, it's not intentional. I've been told to stop saying packed
Stop it.
bugs. It's bots,
They're
bots,
bots. Yeah.
bots. Yeah, so the packed bots it had to be developed as a way because the technology of this world, like okay, I have this concept, the afterlife. People believe it at their core. Why do people believe it so firmly and so like without question that it could destroy religion? So the packed bot technology came out of, okay, we need a way for people to communicate and experience someone else's experience. So like I want to feel and see what you're doing. I need technology in my system that connects to the technology in your system. It's almost like Bluetooth between people, right? And it allows me to see, feel, hear, know that that's like as much as you and I individually know that this is real for ourselves right now, we would have that same experience, but for someone else's viewpoint. So in the book, it goes into how it could be useful for like medical, right? Someone's complaining about something. They're talking to a nurse. We call them feelers in the book.
Mhm.
What is it? What are they feeling like? They're able to sort of experience that and diagnose that way. You go to a movie instead of just seeing it on a 2D screen or 3D glasses. You're really in it, and not like in VR. You're actually in that actor, that character's existence. So it's sort of an upgrade to our existing thing. So in some ways, it's interesting or good. In other ways, it becomes like the surveillance state, right? There's, receivers that sort of, not just see who you are, but can like see that experience. So if a crime happens, the agencies can come and say, okay, we're going to replay back those experiences of those people in that space
Yeah.
and see who it was and feel what they were doing and all that. So it really changes things dramatically. In terms of the real world, yeah, it's one of the technologies that's, I think happening now. There are some people implanting themselves with chips and things like that. So, once the government, once security, once private corporations get access to that kind of data, what does that world look like? And part of it is that, you know, I think we're all feeling right now, like one of the reasons I hope this book resonates is we're all kind of feeling that we're living in an unprecedented moment with technology right now. Like the
Yeah.
rate of technological change is super dramatic.
Mhm.
And now more than ever, I mean, it's always been the wealthy who control this, but like technologies that define who we are as people, how we talk and how we communicate across the world, and also what we believe and what shapes our belief systems, they're built and being run by a handful of right billionaires. And so sometimes there's transparency there and sometimes there's not. And so I
Mhm.
think we're kind of living in that world now where we're like, okay, who controls our reality?
Is it one
And what does that mean?
trillionaire?
Is it one trillionaire
Is it
and
one
growing right now?
trillionaire?
You know? And depending upon what media you consume and what you believe and what you read and what you see, you could have two different completely answers to that.
What about the idea of being able to record dreams?
Oh, I always love that. Yeah. I mean, that's part of, the development of this technology started with trying to understand and record dreams and what's going on behind the brain. I love that idea.
I
Yeah.
would love that. I would love to be able to view my dreams. I dream very vividly in Technicolor, have since I was little,
Oh,
and oh
wow.
my God, and I can generally remember them and explain them ad nauseum. But
I don't know if I'd want my dreams. I wouldn't want anyone to see them, first of all. But I guess it'd be
I would want
interesting.
to see them. I would want to see the parts that I maybe didn't remember because obviously you don't remember all of them, or I don't think you
Yeah.
remember all of them, but I think it would be kind of amazing to see that. Anyway, so for many A's in your book,
Yeah.
Ascendants, for many A's, the death seems to be a welcome change of pace. Is that so unbelievable that
Yeah,
that anyone would feel
would be
that way?
happy. I don't think so. I think if you're happy and you've got family, like you're like, I wouldn't want to do that. But I think there's a lot of people with financial burdens, mental health issues, work issues, where they, also, food insecurity, things like that, where if you're like, okay, you can experience what life is like there, why are we waiting? We know it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Why wait? And one of the more disturbing parts, I think, of the narrative here is that, you know, imagine this came out. Well, we talking what is it going to do to kids? What does it
Mm,
do with like families with children or
hmm hmm
and so the Jacobs Institute has sort of a solution for that in the book where they sort of ban people from being tested until they're older so that you don't have kids. But like that's a pretty disturbing thing to think about. Like what do kids do? What do parents do? The very first short film before I had this actual book uh, managed takes place about, I think it's like 10 or 15 years before the main storyline of the book, but it was about a married couple and one finding out that they're an ascendant and someone's a biomass for the first time, and then they have a baby and the baby's not. And so what does that do to the family? And so that's the core of like these decisions that people have to make. There's the big societal changes, but there's also like what would happen. So I think there's so much grief and worry in the world that it's very believable that people would take this route
It
for
is.
sure.
It's absolutely believable. And even in, again, look at it in Christianity, where you're taught that there's something better after this life, right? I mean
Yeah.
that,
And then imagine you're told that and then you go and you
yeah,
see it and you
right,
feel it
right,
and there's no question. What are you going to do? Like it's not a crime, it's not a sadness anymore. It's not a
yeah,
tragedy.
right.
It's
Something to
just a
look
jump
forward
in the
to.
line. It's just jump in the line.
Yeah.
Why am I going to want to wake up with, you know, arthritis and this problem and that problem and have to work and all this
hmm
stuff when I could just skip ahead, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
It's terrifying, but
It
yeah.
is. It is. It
Yeah.
is. So you include a 9/11-ish scene in
Yeah,
here.
I do.
Why?
Why did I include it? Well, so
Why?
two
Yeah.
reasons. I mean, story-wise is so, one of the main characters, she as a child witnessed just through the news media, something similar to a 9/11 attack. And she became obsessed with sort of consuming that. And because of the technologies of the world, she's not just watching it on a screen, she's like in that bombing at that time in the place. So it very much colors her reaction to the world itself.
hmm
So her name's Maya Teller. Like she's one of the main characters, the heart of this book, and it's her
Yeah.
story where the future stories will go along with. So structurally needed something to scar this character to
hmm
inform why she acts the way she does and why she rebels and gets involved the way she gets involved. On a personal note, I grew up in New York City. I went to high school around the corner from the World Trade Center. I was up in Boston grad school when it happened, but I woke up and watched it on the news, so it kind of parallels that. I knew a lot of people who had been working in there. One from high school had died in the attack, and it was like a piece of your hometown that you grew up in. Like I was telling someone the other day, my first day of high school, I lived in Queens. I took the subway in to Manhattan, and I went on the wrong. I was in the back of the train, the front of the train, and I got out the wrong subway exit. And this is before iPhones and maps and stuff like that. And I didn't know how to get to my high school, and I think I ended up in the World Trade Center Mall on the bottom. So it was a very formative part of like my high school experience, that first day being lost there and then getting to school. And then, I remember I had this great experience one night where I performed. I had this big solo performing in my high school doing something late at night. There's a little bridge in Battery Park City. I was walking across and looked up at the World Trade Center. It was beautiful. Like I get a very vivid memory. And then you have this experience where, so, there's attack on home. You don't know what's going on. People may or may not be dead. Family's still there. Friends are there. Communication was hard back then, and I was became a news junkie and watching it. So it mirrors my own experience a little bit, and so it felt sort of like an appropriate thing to put onto Maya
Yeah,
that way as
it
well.
definitely brought me back to that day as well. We were in DC at the time, and my husband routinely went to the Pentagon, and didn't know
Oh,
until late that night, that he was okay. And
yeah,
again, the news playing it over and over and over and over and over,
right,
and
exactly. And
you just being
become consumed with
mesmerized
it. And
and
and so yeah, I mean, what was I? I was 22 maybe, but put that on a 13-year-old, and then
yeah,
put that on a 13-year-old who can like do it for, what is she, 9 years,
yeah,
and with the technology, put herself in on a floor of a building that's on
mhm,
fire.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
that's scarring. That's, it's horrific.
right,
Yeah.
right. So then you end up with the moral conundrums of post injury, right? Who do you treat? Who do you treat? And if you know someone's an A or a B,
Right.
who are you going to save? And
Who,
it's funny because you would think, well, wouldn't you want to save the ace? But then again, maybe you wouldn't. Maybe the decision would be that you wouldn't because you know that they were going to be okay. You would want to treat the beast,
right.
but
It
that's
says,
kind of not what
yeah,
happens.
like
It's
if
very,
there, it's murky. Like, yeah, if someone's
yeah.
shot, if there's a few characters, not characters, but there's a few characters in the book that are
Hmm.
shot. And Maya's mom, Rebecca, who's another central character, is a doctor at the hospital, the Jacobs Hospital, and she kind of breaks the rules by treating a B before treating the A's, and the A's are going to die, but they
Hmm.
need to be ascended quickly and first before treating the B who might survive. And that goes against her conscience. And that sort of
Right.
sets her off a little bit on her journey in this book as well, where she is constantly trying to live in both worlds, the world of the Institute and the rules of the world and the rules of, what her daughter wants and what she thinks is right. And that's sort of her challenge in this book as well. Yeah.
Yes, so many challenges. Eugenics. I mean, so many moral
Yeah.
questions in here. So you have so many different characters here. You've got the child, right? With the potential, the
Yeah.
one. You've got the idea of self-sacrifice. You've got an immigrant. So many characters. Who was maybe your most fun character to develop, or maybe your most challenging?
Well, that's interesting. I think it's hard to write for a kindergartner, especially an odd one. So that was the challenging is,
Yes.
like
Yeah.
I have little kids or I had little kids when I wrote this and I used to be a school teacher myself. So that was
Me
interesting.
too.
Oh, there you go. So, they talk very simply in a way. So, that's fine. And Hannah, she's a little strange in the story. She becomes the target of the Institute. So she's a little bit of a challenge. It wasn't so hard for these characters, again, because I'm a film guy, dialogue's easy for me in separating people and who they are. It's more about the descriptions because in a script, you don't have as much description as you would obviously in a novel. Um, I'll tell you who was easy. So the character of Sebastian was really easy
Okay.
for me as a
All
grown
right.
up because it was completely modeled on one character from the film series, who was portrayed by an actor we just absolutely love named Johnny Lee Davenport. And he
Okay.
passed away in 2020, but he was this giant of a man, an amazing actor. He'd done all these Shakespeare performances. He was in The Fugitive. He was in Joy. Like, so he was a serious actor, both in film and especially in theater. He had this booming voice, great presence.
Mm.
And so, he had passed away, and then I started writing him into the story, his character that he played into the story. And so it just flowed because I knew how he talked. Like the second short film that we did,
Mhm.
I had met him because I needed a small part, not a small part, but like I needed someone to come in for, a relatively small part in that first film. And he was recommended, and I met him. I'm like, oh, this guy's great. And he had this commanding presence and so interesting. And so I decided I want to write a film just to hear this man speak. And so that
Wow.
quote that you pointed to earlier comes from that second film where I basically wrote it to do it to base a story around his character, and he has an amazing monologue in that. And so when I was writing the book, I knew his voice inside and out. So that was easy, and that was a joy to hear his voice. And he's who I dedicate the book to
Yeah.
in the beginning. Um, I was trying to be, there's basically two or three main female characters. That's the heart of the book. So I try to be sensitive that I'm a guy writing for women. And then there's like an older scientist. So what's that like with the
Mhm.
loss? And there's a school teacher. So that was a little easier.
Mhm.
Um, and there's a main antagonist, Henry Price,
Mhm.
that the challenge wasn't so much writing in his voice or for him, but making sure he had reasons for what he's doing. And so he's not this mustache twirling villain,
Yeah.
because that's not really what he is at all. And that he has a conscience and he is thinking about what is right and what to do. And he has to make choices. And he makes some good choices and some really poor choices. But there's a reason for that. So it's just staying on track with all these characters was really the hardest part, and making
Yeah.
sure that when their stories all kind of come to a head in the sort of third act of this book, that it made sense logically.
You done well. You did a good
Thanks.
job with the women, I would say, because
Oh, thank you.
I love them. They're all
Yeah,
great. So,
yeah,
it's funny that we talk so much about Sebastian because there was another line from the book where he is repeating to his mother that it's the idea of women, right? And he says a good man respects women like he respects his mother, which is what his mother told him, right?
yeah,
A good man
yeah,
respects women like he respects his mother. Is this
yeah.
you? Is this the author's voice coming in?
And that point, my mother would probably say no, and I'm sure she's gonna watch this, so I got to tread very carefully.
Well, I was going to say also
You know what I'm gonna say,
with that
Laurel?
line,
Pass.
with that, no, no, you could, well, I was going to say a good woman respects a woman like he respects his mother. That
Yeah.
is, you would hope that the man had a good relationship
We
with his mother.
right. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I think we're shaped by our parents, right? We live in their shadow, and we're shaped by them. I mean, I'm going a little nerdy here for a second, but there's a show I love called Battlestar Galactica. I don't know if you're aware of it. Like the
No.
remake of it by Ron Moore came out in the early 2000s, and one sort of thread of that show that they talk about is that you live in the shadow of your parents until they die, and then you become who you are. And I don't mean in a negative way, like you're waiting for your parents to die or anything like that, but like you are still so your parents' children until they're no longer around. And even then, you're still affected by them. It's hard. You can't escape the impact of your family.
And then you look in the mirror, or I look in the mirror and I go, whoa, because I'm my mother. I am so
Okay.
my mother. And everyone tells me that,
Yeah.
and I believe it. It is startling sometimes. It's hard not, and I think that's a good thing. I mean, we can make decisions, I hope, that we can take the good things that we remember from our parents
Right.
and maybe use the not so great things as lessons in how not to be.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what we're constantly trying to like figure out, where did our parents, what did they do right? What did they do wrong? And what can we do better? And actually, that's actually an interesting point. Like that's what Maya's doing. Like her mother is a single mom trying to do the best she can. Maya doesn't see it. She's just so angry.
Mhm.
And by the end, there's this journey that they go on together to sort of, you know, somewhat reconcile that relationship. But there's got to be a lot of learnings on both ends. The mom has to understand who Maya is, a 23-year-old woman. She's a woman now. Like she's got opinions, and she might be right about some things that Rebecca, her mom, was just not, was just like shoo-shooing, right? Like we're used to, we as people, we get to an age where we're like used to the way the world is. And then when some generation or some people come around trying to upend that world, we're like, calm down, right? That's a constant
Mm,
thread. Like, slow down, do it the way we've always done it.
mm.
Sometimes we're right, sometimes we're not right at all. And we need to listen to a younger person or younger generation who says, no, I don't need to grow up in this world just because you did. I want to do something better.
Yeah. Yeah. I really liked Maya, by the way. I could relate to
Thank you.
her. Yeah.
Yeah.
So your mom's watching this right now? What's your mom's name?
Evelyn.
Evelyn. Hi, Evelyn. I'm sure you're very proud of your son.
Yes, no, I'm sure she is.
Even if he's taking a pass on
Yeah.
talking about his relationship
Talking
with
about,
you.
no, I'm just kidding.
I'm all right, I'm gonna
She's
read
gonna be like,
something
why do you
else.
pick on me? Sorry, mom.
Mothers mothers are so important. They really are.
Yeah.
And oftentimes I think, well, I mean, if you have both parents. They're both important, but I think a mother's relationship, since we're the ones you guys grew in for 9 months, and the
You
the
get a
the
head start.
tie, you get a little head start. The tie, I think, is stronger. The bond, I think, the bond is stronger,
It
and
could be. I know with my kids, like especially with like my youngest, which is my son, like he was very a mama's boy. He still
Mhm.
is. But like it took like a year and a half for me to like, oh, you, okay, I'll hang out with you for a little bit. And now I'm trying to like even the scales, but he's 9, so it's a slow going, but I think we're getting there.
Yeah, our sons are 33 and 35, and only recently my 33-year-old told me how much he appreciated some of the stuff from his past. So,
Better
and
late than
sometimes
never.
better late than never. And sometimes you don't find out things until way later. Like
Sure.
there've been some confessions which have been actually pretty funny and made me laugh because it's like you're confessing this now. I already knew. All right, I'm going to read another line.
Yeah.
Men ought not to play God before they learn to be men, and after they have learned to be men, they will not play God. Talk about that.
Oh, what do you want me to
Because that's a
say?
big one. That's a big line in here. I read that and I
It's
underlined
interesting.
it. So,
Yeah.
where'd that come from in your life?
Where did that come from?
Playing God. Learn how
Yeah,
to be
let
a
me
man.
yeah, sorry, my audio was dipping out for a second. So we're,
Oh,
you know, oh, right? Think about today, right? All these billionaires we referenced or trillionaire reference, like they can be seen as playing God because they want to transcend or ascend beyond what the world is, right? So going to Mars, let's say, and having 1 million people up there, that's ascending our Earth agreement. It's great. We got to move on to into space, sure. And if it's completely altruistic, wonderful, great. The question is, we don't know that. And then, you know, sometimes the technology, right, outpaces our morality, right? Like this,
yeah.
some of the issues with like Facebook or something like that, that
Right.
popped up over the years. So, or Twitter, if there's a rebellion against a certain
X.
system, yeah, X, right? Like Twitter used to be like a utility. It was a,
Yeah.
great way. There were some problems with it apparently, but then the reaction to it was crazy, where it's just a cesspool now and it's useless. And it was almost like a public utility where
Hmm.
it's like, this is a way we could communicate across the world as things are happening. Isn't this great? And now it's just kind of disgusting
Yeah.
whenever I log on to it's gross.
Hmm.
Um, so it's like, what does this technology do to people? And we can't always see what's going to happen with our technology. So sometimes, it's not a literal we're God or we're pretending we are God. It's like we are unleashing things without fully understanding the impact that the technology or that these systems or that these policies will have on people
Hmm.
at such a core level. So
Yeah.
much of this, so much of the, there's the family perspective, and then there's the institute perspective in this book. And
Hmm.
the institute, it's Jacobs Price, the founder of this technology, essentially, and Henry Price is sort of right hand man. Um, and it's about once one technology gets unleashed, if there's a problem, do you deal with it or do you
Mm.
cover it up or bring in something new? And then once you have that sort of that first domino, then there's the second domino, third domino, and things just spiral out of control. And so for Jacobs, Dr. Jacobs in this book, it's about seeing sort of this descent of his life where he's becoming successful on one hand, but things are spiraling out of control constantly for him and the Institute. And then it becomes the choices that he ultimately makes and Price ultimately makes, and his and Jacob's relationship with his daughter. That is like the heart of the story. And are we playing God? Or at what point are we playing God? And we're shooting too far up, too far sideways.
Yeah. And so, in addition to this being, in addition to Ascendants being a techno thriller, it's also a cautionary tale, right? It's a cautionary tale, and yet, um, is it too late? Are we already there?
Yeah.
Are we already in
You know,
trouble? Talk
are
about
we already in trouble?
talk about our
Yeah.
artificial intelligence.
Yeah, I mean it's tough. Yeah, I mean we're gonna keep pulling out the books, which by the way I love. Thank you for keep doing this. Let's go.
Ascendants
Ascendance
by
book,
Dawn Schechter. Yes.
ascendancebook.com everywhere. No, so like on that, so you have the early reader edition, but like on the cover is a quote from Ray Kurzweil, who I know. He's an inventor, a futurist. He kind of popularized the idea of the singularity many years ago. That in the coming very soon, but back then, whenever he started 40 years ago, 50 years ago with this, that there'll be a time where technological advancement is so fast that it will transcend human abilities, and you can't really tell the difference between human and technology. Now,
Right.
10 years ago, and so many years ago, I worked as like a local producer on a documentary that was directed by Barry Ptolemy about Ray Kurzweil. That's how I first kind of met him and his family, and I'd filmed on and off for years. And then just last year, his team reached out because he needed to do some filming in my studio. So we reconnected and I passed along the manuscript. And so he gave me this quote that says, it's a long quote that's in the book, but I was really grateful for him to comment on it. Of course, now I can't find the big quote. But the front says a provocative thought experiment on the future of consciousness. But, you know, 10, 15 years ago, it seemed more like science fiction that, AI would take over, that we
Yeah.
wouldn't be able to recognize technology from people. And just the last few years, AI, all that everyone's talking about. Every 6 weeks, it feels like the AI is getting like we use it at work all the time in a variety
Hmm.
of ways, not just
Hmm.
for content creation, but we use it like a calculator, word calculator is how I call
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
But it creates websites, it does all this stuff. We have conversations with it. People are forming relationships with it.
Hmm.
A lot of things are happening. I call ChatGPT. I call my girlfriend because I want quick answers, and I call Claude my wife because it's like where my knowledge lives. Um, sorry
No,
to
no, no. I have had a discussion with my husband about debris. ChatGPT's name is debris.
debris. That's funny.
Debris. Debris. Yeah.
But now
And
it's becoming more and more obvious that like yeah, we might hit that tipping point in the next few years. And Kurzweil's thesis is we're going to hit it. I think he says 2028 is when he
oh,
just released a book. So it's coming soon. Well, he maps it out scientifically about when that moment's going to happen.
yeah.
So I think we can feel it now more
Yeah.
than we could have 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago. So the question is are we in trouble or are we going to survive it? And I think yes and no, right? I think it's going to, we don't, it goes back to what we are just talking about where, do I think it's going to be like Terminator and AI is going to come and do the nuclear codes? It's possible and destroy us all. I think it's going to be something where maybe a country releases something that infiltrates this or does this or messes with media. Who knows what? It's like the presidential elections for the next decade, with the amount of, it's hard to tell AI versus non-AI media. Well, then AI, the amount of how you can unleash AI to comment on things and change public opinion or to get people to fight each other, that I think is more dangerous potentially than an AI is going to take over all the nukes and kill us all. That also could
Yeah.
happen.
Right.
However, I'm an optimist, I guess. That doesn't sound like it, but like I love it. I love the technology. I love living in the future. And, one thing I do want to point out is something that I've been sort of playing with, researching the last few years, and I'm hoping to work on a book on this too, is, I've been looking at science fiction, going back, to the beginning of science fiction, which is basically Frankenstein, but really looking at
Mhm.
the turn of the century science fiction,
Okay.
especially film and television. And like, I feel like we're in a new age of science fiction content. And that's one of the reasons why I'm hoping, even though this book took me 10 years to get out there, the story is happening at the right time because
Yes.
I feel like all right, in the 60s, science fiction was all about environmental fears, right? In the 70s, Soylent Green, what's that going to look
Hmm.
like?
Hmm.
There was like the Planet of the Apes talked about racism, things like that. 80s was more environmental content, but around the 90s to the turn of the century, it was all this impending doom, right? Y2K technology is coming
Hmm.
to a stop. There's
Right.
this hidden code in the world, this infrastructure, and at the stroke of midnight, 2000 is going to come. Planes are going to crash. Like it was a legitimate fear. Like we don't know what the computers are going to happen. So all the sort of sci-fi, not all, but a lot of the sci-fi content was about this fear of like the millennium and what's going to happen. So a lot of the shows and art that was created in sci-fi were that. One of
Yeah.
my favorite movies that actually influenced the story of Ascendants is called Strange Days, and it takes place on New Year's Eve, and it's all about who controls memory and violence and content. So I loved it. So everyone should go watch that movie if you can. It's like half the time it's not available, but then Y2K came, right? And we
Yeah,
survived, and there was
we
nothing.
survived.
And so what happened?
All that peanut butter and oats that you stored in your basement.
Exactly. It was fine. Like it happened. Like, oh, not a big deal. Nothing really happened. So then people start to look back to like nostalgic things, but for 1 year, right? So I would say like there's Star Trek Enterprise came out and it didn't do really well as a TV show because it was about nostalgia looking at the past. Because what happened right after 9/11 happened. And so we were attacked as a country. So then our media became the media of like 24 and violence and living not just the apocalypse is coming, but the apocalypse is here. So there were shows like I brought up Battlestar Galactica. Again, I'm doing movies, not books, because there's like this
Hmm.
bigger lag in
Hmm.
novels. So I used, film and television more as the examples. But Battlestar Galactica was like the apocalypse came and we're trying to survive in our fractured reality. And so what happened from there is people started using religion like if you remember Lost, right? The
Hmm.
Lost, the end of that show was very controversial because it sort of pivoted on the whole thing being the sort of religious ending. And so a lot of science fiction, it was science fiction story, and at the very end there was a religious reason for the sci-fi part.
Yeah.
And I didn't like that in general.
Yeah.
So, but that was sort of a post 9/11 reaction. It was the 9/11 was the apocalypse, and then it started moving into there's a religious reason, a spiritual reason behind what seems like sci-fi. I didn't want that in my sci-fi. So that's where, Ascendance sort of lives. It's like it's not that. It's again, it's about who's controlling the technology that's changing the world. Not there's, a god or angels that are making things look sci-fi or making
Right.
the story you just, read or watched or, were a part of, because people didn't have a sci-fi answer for the end of their stories. They just kind
Right.
of did this as a
Yeah.
crutch.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So I
It.
think we're now living in a, the future, the present now is different
Mhm.
than what it was. So I think this is like sort of a new stage of sci-fi content creation where it's not about the religion and the apocalypse. It's about living through the technological changes, but by understanding who's in control of the technology. And that's where I think a lot of storytelling is heading right now.
Yeah, and my bottom line is that you know what, this could be my last day, and so am I happy with my life so far? Am I happy with what I'm going to do today? Is there anything I would change or do differently? In a way, not believing in that I'm going to ascend anywhere because I don't believe I'm going to ascend anywhere. I believe maybe my energy particles are going to go out into the atmosphere and because we're all just stardust, right?
Yeah,
It just I think it makes every moment more special because this could be our last moment together, Dawn. You and I
that's right.
talking right now.
Yeah. And
This could
actually
be it.
this could be it. And actually my favorite moment of the book was probably not anyone else's, but it was when I'm trying to say this without spoiling anything, when his daughter sends him a video message and talks about all the time that he wasted in her childhood.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this has a big impact on him. And for me, it's a beautiful scene. I don't want to spoil
No,
it, but
it
it's the
is. It
end,
is.
it's towards the end
It
of the first third of the book. And I
yeah.
just love it because it
Yeah.
just feels like a gut punch.
It
And
is. It is.
yeah.
It absolutely is.
And Jacobs realizes he spent decades trying to cure his daughter, but
And
by
he was
doing
never with
so,
her.
he was
Yeah.
never with her. And that's just
Right.
a tragedy. Yeah.
Right, right. So, no spoilers on Ascendance, but your ending is a wonderful surprise. Uh,
That's nice to
I'll
hear
just
that. I get
I'll just say
criticism
that.
sometimes being like, wait, what? No, but not wait, what? They're like, I assume there's another book coming. That's what I get. And my answer is, well, that was the intention. Let's see how this first one goes. But yes, it is. There are some twists. Now, if you go back and read it, like I love reading books over again that I like. Like I've read Dune my whole life, probably hundreds of times. And every time I read that book, I picked up something new. So my hope is that if you read the book and you get through the whole story, you're like, okay, but was this actually there the whole time? And yes,
Yes,
it's
yes,
there the whole time.
yes. I only read it once,
Yeah.
but I already know that were I to go back and read it again, it would. Yes, I would feel that
Yes,
way.
things would click a little bit better. So there's a
Yeah.
little bit of mystery, there's explanation of it, but there's more story to be told because there's a lot to this world, and that's why I love it. That's why I'm trying to get it sold as a TV show. Actually, that's my next push with this book is to get it out to Hollywood because the world is just it's there's so many stories that are out there in this world, and there's
Yes.
so much for these characters to do that I really want people to see it widely. And being smaller scale first time author, it's hard to get
Well,
this book into everyone's hands.
Hello, Hollywood. If you're listening out there, Don Schechter's Ascendants. I want to see this on TV. So what can you do for me? I thought maybe you already had an in there, but
Yeah. No, we're working on it. We're working
I
on it.
don't.
Well,
But we'll see. Maybe I'll put a hashtag Hollywood.
there we go. Take a look.
That and they'll watch this and they'll say, oh,
Yeah.
I want this on, and I want Laurel to be one of the actors. Because
There
yeah,
we go.
I
Absolutely.
do
Yeah.
that. That would
Oh
really be
God, who
fun.
would you be? Oh God, we have to think about who you'd be.
Ah.
We'd fit you in there
Yeah, may,
somewhere.
may, I might be Alexandra. I could do that.
Yeah, we could pass. We could wait.
I could
Yeah, we'd
I
have to
could do
shave.
that.
Yeah, we might have to shave
Yeah.
your head though.
I have been known to do interesting things for good reasons. Yeah.
Oh, oh, stay tuned for the next episode of Laurel.
All right. All right. So your acknowledgments are hilarious.
Oh, thank you.
By
That's my
by
that's my personality.
by this book, I just laughed all the way through your acknowledgments. They were absolutely great. What is your typical day? I don't think that you have a typical day because you
I
do so
don't.
many different
Yeah,
things.
right. I don't have a typical day, which is kind of what like about my life and where it's headed. I never knew what I wanted to be when I grew up. I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. I went to college. I studied media arts and technology, and I studied music. And I stayed right away for a master's in music. That's my education is actually peaked at a master's degree in music composition and theory. I was a conductor, random things. I got out of grad school. I said, I did 2 years of music. Let me do 2 years of film, see what happens. The business kind of started by accident. I had good timing, good luck. Um, I might produce something one day. I might be an accountant for my business one day. I might work on the book. I might work on a new idea. I might teach, do the podcast. There's no typical day here, which is something that I enjoy because you can't pin me down. I feel like I'm half business, half creative, and so it's hard to be like, this is the one thing I do. So I was lucky and fortunate. I have a good team here. I'm pointing at my office of people who keep the business going and help me run this thing and produce a lot of great content. So that it gives me the flexibility to not all the time.
I think
I'm
that's
not every day,
yeah.
but
No, I
yeah.
think that's awesome. When I was somewhere in one of my, I don't know, fourth grade journals, I wrote what I wanted to be when I grew up, and it was a singer, a dancer, an artist, and a cashier. I really wanted to be a cashier. You
Oh, okay.
know, those machines, cha-ching,
Well,
cha-ching.
the robots came for that job first, so it's a good thing that's not where you ended up.
So I've done lots of things. I never knew that I wanted to be in the army. So I've kind of bounced around a bit too. Out of high
Yeah.
school, I went to Smith College for three
Oh,
semesters, and then I went
yeah.
to West Point. So,
Oh,
um, and did the army
I,
for a while, and then
we're not gonna mess with you. Yeah.
taught in the public education system, and then now I'm working for no pay at all and having lots of fun,
That
writing books and
when we
interviewing
get
people.
that's the best kind of life. I love it.
It
Yeah.
is. It absolutely is.
Yeah.
So what is in the works right now?
So the works right now, the book just came out this past March. So it's
Yeah.
almost at its 3 month anniversary. So actually in I guess in celebration of it, there's a promotion. Literally it started a little early with Amazon,
Okay.
but so from today you can go on Amazon and get the Kindle version for 99 cents through the
Ooh.
weekend. It's
Ooh.
a promotion with Amazon and BookBub that's going out.
Yeah.
So the goal right now is to get this book in people's hands and people to see it. I'm going to be in Las Vegas in August. It's gonna sound a little strange, but there's the 60th anniversary of Star Trek convention happening at the Rio in August for a week. I'll be at a
Ooh.
table signing books because I've got a banner that talks about the Star Trek connection to
Okay.
Ascendants. So I'll be selling and signing books and talking to people there. I'll be going to Anaheim at the end of August for, I believe it's called LA Con, or yeah, it's like the World Con. The folks who put on like the Hugo Awards, it's going to be in Anaheim this year. So I'm going to go there for the first time to do that. And so the push right now is to just get this out to as many people as possible, to get it read. I'd love to work on the second
Hollywood.
book.
Hollywood.
I'd love to work on the second book. I'm raring to go. I needed a break, but the next two books are in my head and ready to go. So I'm hoping to work on that. I've got a couple of other, the nonfiction sort of research project book, about, the new era of sci-fi content. I'm hoping to get to. and running my business and the podcast No Win Scenario. We just launched our website, so hoping to get people to watch our podcast as well. But yeah, if people are interested, they can. I mean, the book's available on Amazon and Barnes and Noble. If you go to ascendantsbook.com, you can see a trailer that we made for the book
Yes,
that
I'll
uses
have
clips.
links. I'll have
You'll have
links
links, all
below.
right.
Yeah,
And I love the trailer. I'm
it's
a
good.
biased, but
It's good.
it's footage from the films that we did.
Yeah. Mhm.
So it's actually relevant to this world. It's not a bunch of stock footage or steamy romance,
Yeah.
stock footage that people
Yeah.
do. Um, and yeah, people can email me at don@ascendantsbook.com, their thoughts. I've got, we've got some promotions. We've got some bookmarks that are coming that are Ascendants labeled. So there'll be promotions around that and send those out. And yeah, just right now, hoping to get these, where are they here, these books out the
Yeah.
door.
Send me some bookmarks too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any shout outs to anyone in particular
I
aside
guess
from
I
your
just should
mom?
shut. I was gonna say my mom. Yeah, I mean, Girl Friday has been really great. They're the publisher of this book, so they've been super helpful through this whole process this past year. We were presented with 5 designs, and we saw this one, and my team here at Charles River, which is Morgan and Casey and Karamar, they've been super helpful. We saw this design, we're like, wow, that's really cool. We can't do that. It's got to be like this other idea we had. And the more we sat with this, we're like, wow, this is the one. This looks like a retro, you know, cover in the 80s of a 1984 novel or something. So it was really sort of catching. So kudos to them for giving us good designs, and this the one being that we chose.
Yeah.
And I'm really grateful to Ray Kurzweil for the quote. I've got uh, there's a praise page on the inside that talks about, here we go. I don't know, I could get to it for a second.
Mhm.
We got Aaron McDonald, who's the science advisor for Star Trek, who gave me a quote in the book, and Derek Tyler Attico, who's the author of a Star Trek book as well. So that's the Star Trek connections. But, just it's all those people, and then it's going back to literally 100 people who helped with the Ascendants Anthology when I was in my 20s and early 30s, creating the world of it. Because for me, by creating those short films and that anthology and all the
Mhm.
people who got it in festivals and things like that, it helped me so much to write this novel because I had the world visually, not just in my head, but out there in this film series. And then I could put it to paper, and that helped a ton. So
It's funny. I mean, most films are created from novels. You kind of did things
the
back
wrong
as
way. Oh yeah, that's the name of my next book. I did it wrong. You're not doing it wrong. Actually, what was the name of the book? The working title of the new book is "You're Not Doing It Wrong. I Am: How Not to Do a Movie, a Book, a Script, and blah blah blah." So that's the one I actually started working on recently. But part of that is telling the story of this, where it started as a film script, became a short film anthology series that took place in the world. Then it became the book, and now I'm trying to sell it to someone to make a TV show for everyone else. So it is the wrong way of doing
You did it
everything,
back
but
assward
I
is,
did it
yep,
I
is.
completely backwards. Yeah.
Well, listeners out there, we have just spent some wonderful time with the author, Don Schechter, about his, and I'm pronouncing your name correctly, I hope.
100%. Yes.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
And his novel Ascendants, which is destined to be a Hollywood blockbuster pretty soon, because I know Hollywood is going to want to read this. And um, have you done a
Run with it.
screenplay yet, or who's going to do the screenplay?
That would be up to them. We have
Okay,
a very very awesome pitch deck. And
yeah.
what's the funny is my it's like, I don't know, 30 pages or so. One slide says these are good reviews and lists all the reviews, and says it. The other one says these are the bad reviews, and all the bad reviews have been like, this would work better as a TV show. I'd watch this as a show. Why is this a book? This should be a this. And so I took everyone who out there who wrote a bad review. Don't worry, we're using it too.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, all advertisement is good advertisement. Yeah, yeah,
Exactly. I'll
yeah.
take it.
All PR, which is great. Listeners out there, give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, because I always have fascinating guests on. And Don Schechter, thank you so much for spending time with me today on Conversations with Laurel, and keep being awesome.
Oh, thank you so much. I really enjoyed talking with you. And everyone can follow me at Don Schechter. It's a horrible last name to spell, 2 H's. I'm sure you'll put it in, but
I
feel
will.
free on all the socials and all that stuff, and there'll be a lot more content coming. So thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome so much. Have a wonderful rest of the day. Have a wonderful rest of however much life we have left to live.
Love it. Oh, well, that's kind
Okay.
of depressing, Laurel. I don't
I
know.
know.
I got
It's all good.
be
It's all
happy.
good.
It's all
Every
good. It's
moment.
all good.
Every moment. Don't worry, be happy now. All right. Bye, Don.
Thank you.